Frina had been told, that's not a very strong opening, those are very passive sounding verbs, but I'm going with it anyway. Frina had been told to edit with a light touch. So she chose her moments carefully. As she floated above Gilda's bed, where the young girl laid her head crying into her pillows and stuffed animals. Alright. Frina had been told to edit with a light touch, so she chose her moments carefully as she floated above Gilda's bed, where the young girl laid her head crying into her pillows and stuffed animals. Frina didn't have the heart to let this go on. Alright. She opened the book again and flipped back to the page where let me get these people's names straight, where Gilda had been cut from the junior cheerleading squad. With a stroke of her magic pen, the day rewound itself. Gilda's bedding was dry again, and she celebrated with the other girls in front of the list of names. Frina took a moment to look at the other girls walking away in tears. Had she rewritten one of their histories in erasing Gilda's sorrow? Probably. Maybe one of their editing fairies would protest this move. But Gilda was happy again. So all was well. All right. Frina twirled her pen and magic dust spilled out from it absently. Gilda was crying again. held ice on her ankle as the other girls continued to practice. It wasn't clear how bad the injury was yet. She should wait. Frina knew that waiting was the right thing. But still, her wings buzzed with nervous energy as she circled over Gilda's head again and again. Gilda waved a hand as if getting something away from her ear, and then gritted her teeth in pain. This was exactly what Gilda's mother said would happen when Gilda insisted on trying out. Frina took a deep breath and opened her book again. They were still on the same page. Hey, Tom, thank you for being here. They were still on the same page where the fall had occurred. All the detail was there, including a description of the crunching sound Gilda's ankle had made when it twisted under her on impact. There was even a bit of foreshadowing where the text spelled out that they would soon discover it was much worse than they thought. Frina was sure of her choice at that point. Before the rolling script of Gilda's story broke to the next page, Frina. I like the facial growth, Jay. You look like my actor trying to blend it for cutting me extra. Thanks, Armand. I appreciate it. Do it, Jay. Do it to them. Put it in their eye. There you go. All right. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going for with my hair, facial hair, my life, anything. I'm kind of going through some weird times right now. So Frina was sure of her choice at that point before the rolling script of Gilda's story broke to the next page. Frina edited the middle of the key paragraph. Instead, thank you for the subscribe. I appreciate it. Mr. Miyagi of Stay at Home Writers. There you go. Hey, it sounds cool if you say full time writer, not stay at home writers. All right. I do stay at home a lot, though. Although 3 days a week, I go to exercise at a hospital. All right. Frina edited, like the rock stars do. Frina edited the middle of the key paragraph instead of the unfortunate fall. The paragraph now ended with a successful landing. The subsequent story faded away as Gilda stood with her hands raised. Frina, Tom Duffy, 3 days a week I do not exercise. The other 4 days I also do not exercise. There you go. Well, I mean, it's a plan you're sticking with, so there's some honor in that, Yeah, I got doctors watching me, so I got to be sure that I follow through. Once they're not watching me, it'll be all up to me to get and stay healthy. I do appreciate it, though. It is a way to make yourself exercise, I guess. So, if you're looking for motivation, that's one path. I don't necessarily recommend it, but that's what I did. The subsequent story faded away as Gilda stood with her hands raised. Frina took the artistic license while she still had the book open, and the other girls in the squad applauded. The coach called out, "Why is everyone clapping? Get back into formation and run it again." The other girls looked around at each other and then down at their hands as if they had no idea what they were clapping about either. Gilda smiled at all the attention. Gilda smiled at all the attention, and that was all that mattered to Frina. As she tucked Gilda's book under her arm, she spied a few of the other girls' fairies. I can never spell that word right. Never put enough I's in it. She could see a few of the other girls' fairies across the gym. Let's say hovering across the gym. Hovering across the gym. All right. I hope that wasn't a copywritten tune. All right. As she tucked Gilda's book under her arm, she spied a few of the other girls' fairies hovering across the gym, whispering behind their hands. Let them talk. Gilda was Freena's responsibility, and as far as she was concerned, the girl ruining her ankle served no purpose. Scene break. And now I guess we got to break something else, right? All right. I always have a problem spelling rhythm. Me too. Which I just had a problem with right now. Nothing breaks your rhythm as much as misspelling rhythm. All right. I got a bunch of words like that. I don't know why. For a while it was something that I used a lot, but I could never spell the word lieutenant right. And I also had trouble with colonel. So there you go. All right. Even though I knew there was no R in it, still try to misspell it. Okay. Freena had little time. Already some of the pages in the back of Gilda's book. See, already some of the unwritten pages in the back of Gilda's book had disappeared. It wasn't a mad rush of the sudden end of a life, but the book was noticeably thinner. There was no debate this time. As the cheer coach, and a medic stabilized Gilda's neck, Freena turned pages frantically. She was going way back before the accident. Because, of course, even though this was the first incident from Gilda's memory, it was far from the first. Even though it was the first incident from Gilda's memory, it was far from the first that Freena had edited. Maybe if she had left an injured ankle, then she wouldn't be trying to save the girl's neck and restore those lost pages as well. There was no way of knowing, though. Frina kept flipping. There were some incidents that passed a point of editing. Death was one, but there were other plot points. Oh, here's another word that I'm about to misspell. I have a problem with my rhythm in life. I have a problem with my heart rhythm. Death was one, but there were other plot points that became integral. See, there we go. That became integral to the plot. At that point, there was no removing them. Where was that page? It was somewhere back in the early spring. Okay. A Thursday, Frina thought. She found it. As the squad stood together, holding hands, and the spectators, let's say the parents of all the other teams at the competition, watched on in silence or whispers. Frina edited an older passage and returned Gilda's story to a previous timeline. The ripping, let's say the rewinding action felt like being ripped apart. Frina only gave a little thought to the other fairies and how this impacted their stories as well. Frina was so dizzy by the time they were back in Gilda's bedroom in the early spring that she had to drop to the ground, no, I'll say to the carpet, and give her wings a rest. All right. So what are we going to do next? The book dropped to the floor beside her. It remained closed with Gilda's name in gold script on the cover. Frina heaved for breath and sounded very much Gilda as she cried into her pillows and stuffed animals about not making the squad. The story was starting again from here with sentence after sentence of the girl's life, filling the pages once more. This time without cheerleading. I don't have any problem with cheerleading. I don't want this to sound like an anti-cheerleading story. All right. This time without cheerleading. Okay. Okay. Frina. Okay. Keep starting it the same way. Let's say the fairy. The fairy. Let's say Gilda's fairy. Gilda's fairy. Anti-cheer Jay. I don't know. If you pay attention on Twitch here, it sounds like I'm against cats. I'm against cheerleading. I mean, that's not the message I'm trying to get across. Gilda's fairy took comfort in the fact that the book's spine appeared thicker once more. That was no guarantee, of course, but it was far better than the alternative. Something wrapped against the glass of the window behind her. Frida, startled, but Gilda continued crying as if she heard nothing. Her bedroom was on the second floor. Frida took up the book and turned slowly. Another fairy older, wiser, and with a cross scowl over her face, stared through the window at Frina. Frina swallowed twice and whispered, Celia. Celia pointed through. Okay, I heard fairies is offensive to them. They like to be called little winged people now. I prefer to be called the Fae, I think. All right. It depends on the type of fairy. I've actually written two fairy stories, counting this one. I wrote one about baseball called Superstitioneers, which appears in my short story collection, Read, Write, Edit, Play, Repeat. and now I'm writing this one. Those fairies controlled the luck around baseball games. These fairies, I guess, edit people's lives. All right, Sylvia pointed through the window, and her voice came muffled, but clear enough for Frina to hear. We need to talk. They sat on a mossy rock next to each other in the woods. Road noise reached them through the trees. It was nice to rest her wings for a while. Frina liked Celia's company on most days, but she suspected this would not be one of those days. All right. Frina looked in the direction of Gilda's house, knowing it was too far away to see. I don't like being away from her this long. I'm sure you don't, Celia said. You love her very much. Of course I do. Gilda is my girl. She's my responsibility. Her book is your responsibility. Gilda is Gilda's responsibility. To a lesser degree, her parents' responsibility too. But those days are soon coming to a close, and she will need to survive by her wits and the lessons, the experiences from her story give her. The book, the girl. Frina shook her head. Are they not the same thing? The same charge? Not exactly. Not exactly, Celia said. exactly. Are you here to scold me? Did other fairies complain about me? You know fairies and their tales, Celia said. But no, I didn't need anyone to tell. You did a big edit today. Or should I say several days. Erased in an instant. Was I supposed to leave her neck broken? Sometimes, yes, you are supposed to leave them. I couldn't. Wouldn't, you mean? Rena. But my point is that your most recent edit tore out several pages from several books. Those pages have to be written again. Those lessons have to be relearned. All that work and progress was undone. I couldn't leave her that way. It was my fault. She found herself there, and I had to set it right. Whether it was truly your doing or not is a mystery even to us, Celia said. But there is a lesson in this even for you. Am I not supposed to edit out her tragedies? Light touch. Celia recited. That is no guidance at all, Frina said, a little louder than she intended. A group of squirrels, that's another word I have trouble spelling. A group of squirrels nearby scattered and fled up the trees behind where the Fairies sat. It's like it's like saying show, don't tell. Everyone says it, but no one really agrees on what it means. Okay, that's not what I meant to do. Celia said, "This is a lesson you must learn." There are some lessons that can only be learned through pain and suffering. When you take away all the small lessons, then your charge is more likely to learn the hard way with a much steeper learning curve later. I'll try to be more careful. Frina floated up into the air above the rock, as if that were it. Celia floated up with her, and I'll be there to help you. You're going to be watching over my shoulder. Mentoring, I prefer to call it. So, how long will you be mentoring over my shoulder? Celia rolled her eyes. A few years, at least. Are you going to hold my pen? Will my edits have to be pre-approved? No one has stopped you from doing anything. Just as you must learn to use a light touch, so will I use a light touch with you. Gilda tried out for cheerleading twice more in the coming years. She was cut each time, but cried less afterward. Frina remembered seeing Gilda on the mat with her eyes rolled up and a temporary brace around her neck. That was in a timeline that never happened. But Frina never forgot it. Gilda now sat in the dark. Music let's say a bass line pumped out from the walls of the gym several yards away. Gilda leaned over the lap of her nice dress where she sat on the bench alone with her wet eyes and broken heart. Frina and Celia hovered a few feet away over the nearly deserted parking lot. What are you thinking? Celia asked. Frina answered without hesitation. She's better off without him. Probably. I bet she wishes she never met him. That she hadn't wasted all those months of her last year in high school with him. Perhaps. Celia looked at the book tucked firmly under Frina's arm. So you've decided this is a lesson that needs to be learned now. I don't know what to think, Frina said, with her eyes ever on Gilda. Maybe remembering what he was will keep her from finding another one like him. Celia said, or she may develop a pattern of going after guys that are bad for her. Why are you doing this? What? Celia asked. You know what you're doing. Why are you trying to push me to erase, no, I'll say edit, to edit all this when you know I'm not supposed to? I don't know the exact right thing to do any more than you do. Farina, the pages past this moment are as blank for me as they are for you or her. Anything could happen. Any path could lead to tragedy. There is heartbreak to be found everywhere. She is your charge, and it's your call, just like it always was. It's Gilda's responsibility. It's Gilda's responsibility Farina said. I'm just in charge of the book. Celia patted Farina's shoulder. They waited a while longer before voices rose. The fairies heard them before Gilda did. Gilda tried her best. To wipe her face before the other girls arrived, but they knew what had happened. Gilda's friends gathered around her as she broke down from telling the story of her ruined night. They tried to coax her back inside, but she wouldn't go. She told them to go and have fun without her, but they refused. One of the girls removed a butterfly barrette. That's not right. Butterfly pin from her hair and fixed it to Gilda's hair. She felt it with her fingertips. She felt it gently. She felt it gently with her fingertips and tried to smile. But it wasn't all that pretty of a smile with the smeared makeup. The girls decided to go somewhere else for something to eat, and Gilda agreed. Frina flew after them as the group crossed the parking lot to one of the distant cars. The fairy paused when she realized she was alone. Turning, she asked Celia, "Are you coming?" "I have other charges. No, let's say I have other responsibilities to see to." Cadman, hey. Felt worried since we met last, and reason is obvious. Kremlin, yeah, wanting to dictate Sweden and Finland's foreign policy, and that was before the war. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. That was crazy. I don't know what's going through Putin's head, man. And then out of nowhere, kind of throwing that out. It feels like he fears NATO alliances more than anything. Real insanity going on. Of course, maybe he forgot what happened last time. Russia tried to attack Finland. That didn't go too well for him. Just like Afghanistan didn't go too well for him, and Ukraine is not going too well for him either. You'd think they'd learn their lesson eventually. Hope everything's okay up there for you, though. Putin is a gangster. And not in the complimentary sense of the word. All right. I have other responsibilities to see to. Celia said. Frina had grown so used to the other fairies' presence that it took her a while to understand what this meant. Oh, okay. Are you saying I've finally learned my lesson? Celia smiled. We never stop learning. I've enjoyed our time together and look forward to seeing you again. They stared at each other a moment longer. Frina felt like something more needed to be said. Move along, Celia ordered, before your girl gets away from you. She'll be fine, Frina said, but she did move toward the car as it started. Thank you. It was my pleasure. Celia went her way, and Frina flew along above the car to go with the girls to eat. She could have ridden along inside, but she decided the speed and the night air felt good.